All right. Welcome to the Teaching a Rockstar podcast. And on today's episode, we have Natalie Zea. And Natalie is an actress. Man, her big break, I want to say, man, is it like 20, almost 20 years ago? Maybe? It was Passions. It was like this soap that was out back then, and then since then she's been in. I remember Justified. Before that was Dirty Sexy Money, and now she's on an amazing show called The Detour. And I loved having her on the show. We just finished recording, and I think my favorite part was just how clearly she can remember her like school, and she talks about her theater teacher and people that believed in her, and at the beginning of that trajectory that was just the foundation of it all that was created in high school and out in Monahans, Texas. And we talk about that and what it was like going to college, and then the grind, like when the real work starts of auditioning and hearing that no after no after no after no and pushing through and all to get where she is today. I loved our time together. I think you will too. Natalie Zea, Teaching a Rockstar podcast. Here we go. Let's do this. Hey, what's all that snazzy stuff behind you?
So these are all pages from scripts of projects that I've done, and not all the projects, but just the significant ones. I was actually, when I was doing the little bio thing, I had to turn around and be like, okay, what was that? What was that?
What was that thing called?
Not everything makes it. Actually, it's been a while since I added one.
Yeah, I get it.
And it doesn't have to be significantly good. It can be a really bad experience.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, there's one that I need to add.
It was bad?
Yeah. I don't know.
All right.
Yeah.
Hey, listen. Before we get started, like we got to get this is the serious business. So you've been out there doing the LA, doing the Hollywood thing, and here's the deal, man. Like for years, I've been waiting. I've been looking at the Googles. I've been looking at the headlines, and not once, not even remotely close, have I ever seen anything about you and a scandal or hookers or rehab or an affair, something.
I know. It's embarrassing. I know.
You gotta step it up.
I know. Nobody cares. Even if I did, people would be like, ugh.
That's nothing.
Her? Yeah. No, we don't care. She'll be fine. We're not worried about her.
Right. That's nothing compared to some of those folks out there, huh?
I know. Poor things. They just... Yeah, I don't associate with those people. I probably should, but I don't.
Right. It's an interesting group out there. Like I don't know anything, but here's because I just have theories. I'm not in the life, but my theory is like anytime you have such a large group of people who some are there for the art, but there's a whole lot there for like the ego and the fame.
Well, especially now, it's different now than
Yeah.
it. Well, yeah. It's a whole other world right now. I don't know it. I stay in my bubble, and I should probably educate myself more on what's going on, but it's so different.
Yeah. Hey, listen. Here's what I'm fascinated with you, primarily in terms of school and education, is a lot of kids that go out to whether it's acting school or some conservatory or thing. If you look at the bios of all those kids, because my kid's in this process now, and a lot.
I know.
Like a lot come from Houston and Dallas and Chicago and San Francisco, and where they have these deep, thick, rich theater programs, but from
I didn't.
no. Well, I mean, I don't know, but so if I remember right, talking to your mama, you was it Monahans?
Mm-hmm.
All right, hold on. The Lobos. Am I right? It's the Lobos.
Well, you obviously did your research.
No, I'm good.
There's no way you can know that off the top of your head.
Listen, I went to school at Texas Tech, and I traveled around and did all those.
Okay, that's close. That's close. Yeah.
Yeah, and plus, being a high school band director, you kind of get to know school mascots.
Right. Yeah.
All
yeah,
right.
I guess so.
And growing up out there and doing the Monahans thing, like what was that like for you in terms of theater and acting and the arts and all that?
It was hard. It was a challenge because we weren't really supported all that much. And we always sort of felt like we were very scrappy, and we were kind of the redheaded stepchild of the extracurricular world in high school. There was no drama program in junior high. It didn't exist. And it didn't exist. It wasn't that it was small or insignificant. It just, there wasn't one. So the first exposure that I was able to have was freshman year. And we had an incredible theater director who was up against football,
Yeah.
And even I'll say, and my husband, who's also an actor, and he was into musical theater in high school and college. Even the band and the drama department were at odds.
Yeah.
And the band was considered somewhat more of an asset than we were. We were very scrappy. Again, it was just like us against the world, which I think gave me a good intro into what it was going to be like to be in this industry, because you're constantly fighting and struggling and clawing your way, through the masses of people to get seen. So that, I think that was really good, because you're always going to be an underdog really until you're not. And then you're really not, but that's like nobody. I mean, nobody ever gets there. There's 7 people who get there.
Right.
So yeah, I just remember a lot. I have this memory. I was thinking about this the other day of I competed in high school, because that's what you do. I did speech and drama tournaments and did quite well. And there was one program where it was grueling. You had to go through rounds and rounds and rounds and rounds and rounds of doing the scene. And for me, it was a monologue. So I was alone. And what you do is they eliminate kids until they get to the last one.
Yeah.
So you just go, I don't even know how, like physically and mentally, I don't know how I did. It was a really emotional scene. And I ended up winning. I ended up being the last one. And, which meant I got to advance to nationals. And that was in Indianapolis. Well, the school wasn't going to pay for it. So I remember my dad having been a football player at my high school, and my mother having been, she was in the band and she was a twirler. I think that's what you call them. I mean, I guess is that what you call them?
That's a big thing for people who don't know. Back in those days in West Texas band, the twirler was like the coveted position.
It was a big deal. So these 2 people came in and sat down with the superintendent, not even the principal, the superintendent. And they were like, listen, it's us, we know how important certain programs are to you, but this is something that's never happened. Nobody from the school has ever gone on to win anything at a state level where you leave the state. Usually if you win, then it's over. Yeah. I got to leave the state and continue competing. And so they were like, we feel like that's pretty significant, regardless of what the program is. It'd be great if you would pay for it. And they didn't. They did not pay for it. So my parents paid for me to fly out to Indianapolis. I fell on my face. I really did not do well out there, because my coach was not able to come at the last minute. It was very dramatic, actually. Literally at the last minute at the airport, we couldn't get her on the plane. It was a long story, but I was by myself. I mean, I was 18.
Yeah,
I was 18, so I was fine. But I had no coach. Some other coach heard what was going on and took me under their wing, but that's not the same thing. So I didn't do well, which I also think was a great intro into this business, and how, at the end of the day, you're all alone and you can't rely on others, to directors or acting teachers or peers, to get you to the place where you need to be. You're just, because at the end of the day, at an audition, it's just you against the world. So
yeah.
It was disappointing, but that was sort of it was a very accurate example of what we were up against, going to being in such a small town and wanting to do something that just wasn't really all that coveted in that town.
You know what I think it is? I think it has a lot to do with, well, first of all, like this is Texas, so like football is king. Like, I mean, if you want to go to heaven, you got to be a Christian and play football.
No,
And
I
so,
know.
and
I
so,
lived it.
yeah, right. And so there's that, and then everything that because revolves around football. There's band because it like
And
support.
because they're interlinked.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then when you have a district that has like a fine arts director, that person usually came from the biggest programs, which was band or choir or something. Rarely.
Right.
I know a couple and they're great. I know a couple that a director of fine arts comes from the, the drama world. They're out there, but there's so few. And so because it's probably some, close to retirement band director, they have a really hard time connecting with the reality of what happens in theater.
Well, yeah. I mean, we were even at odds with the choir department. I mean, we were just nobody wanted to associate with us.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. We were freaks, but yeah. I just in retrospect, like in hindsight, I feel like, I mean, I understand the politics behind it, but I feel it just feels so strange that the arts department within the various art departments within our school, the rule was turn your phone off. I read one of the rules and it was turn your phone off, and I didn't do it. I'm sorry.
I don't think mine's off either.
But yeah, the fact that that we were all sort of at odds just felt really counterintuitive to what we were ultimately trying to do.
Yeah. I was thinking when you were talking about what your freshman year and your theater teacher, who was that?
Her name is Evelyn Jones, and she's retired now. She's no longer working at the school. And truth be told, I'm so bad at keeping in touch. And she checks in with me all the time, and we will talk on the phone about once a year maybe. But I'm the worst at it's one of my things. So we don't really connect as much as I would like to. But she was absolutely integral. From I don't know that I would have the career I have if not for her. I wouldn't have had the courage to think that I could. I would have had the audacity to think that I could do this for a living, because again, and I don't want to make any blanket statements, but anyone who comes from a small town can attest to this. There are a lot of people who they can't wrap their brain around something like this being a viable option.
Yeah. Let alone leaving the county.
Career.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And I hear too, like when I'm hanging out in those towns and so kids will talk about these amazing goals and things, and some of them are like, oh well, that isn't that cute. Now go get a job. Rather than
and it was so frustrating for me to hear that, because I had such a huge support system with Evelyn, and because she was so. I mean, it was never. She obviously instilled in me that it was going to be very, very hard work, and that I knew what the odds were. I wasn't. She was very realistic about it, but it was never not an option. It was never like, well, of course you're going to do this. So let's get you on the path to doing it, and we'll make you the best you can be, so that once you get out there, you'll have better odds. But the juxtaposition of her support with, and by the way, I actually had other teachers who were really supportive as well. It's just that, it's like when you're on Twitter, the negative comments stick with you way longer than the positive ones. So, I do need to make sure that I remember the support I had, because it's so easy. Just also, once you become successful, it's so great to sort of go over in your head all the bullshit.
For me, it's not even, it's because there's a shred of self-doubt in me already. And like when I would begin, I began my thing, even a simple, as we're talking and I kind of out of this corner of my eye will see like an eye roll from somebody, like, okay, here we go. That whole thing, like that little thing alone is enough.
It impacts, despite the fact that there are hundreds of people who are hanging on every word. You're talking to that one person.
Yeah. and it ruins
Yeah.
you. Like it's crazy. Yeah, and you know,
No.
I had a moment and where I was speaking and it was a huge crowd. I don't know, like you know, hundreds, and the lady who was hosting this event said, "I have to leave about 5 minutes early. Can you like close the doors behind you after everybody?" I'm like, "Yeah, okay, cool." And they had these comment sheets, and there's you know hundreds of them. And
Yeah.
so I'm turning off the lights. I have my gear loaded up. I just make sure I'm not leaving anything, but to lock myself out. And I'm looking at those comment sheets, and I said, "All right,
Oh no.
here we go."
Don't do it. Don't do it.
It
No,
felt
don't do
it
it.
was so good. I'm just like I wanted to rub them all over. Oh my, these are amazing. Look how smart I am. Oh my God, they love me. And I'm just going on, and then it happens.
And then the one. Because it just takes one.
It was so bad. It was. I still remember. It's four of them in a row. They're all like together, like they sat together. They all turned them in
Yeah.
together, and
Yeah.
they were so bad. It was as if, like, I had my friends were there and to make fun of me. Like they knew I was going to
Yeah.
read them, and
Like
they
they knew your
planted them.
insecurities.
Yeah,
Yeah. And they were gonna
like every little thing. That was like, is it like I'm looking around thinking, is this for real?
no.
And so I took them. I took them home and I
Well,
read them in
yeah.
a car. Yeah, I'm not going to turn those in. And I bring them home and like I cannot. I mean, I'm carrying them around for days. And finally,
Oh.
Georgia, she makes me do this ceremony in the backyard where we burn them and bury them.
Yeah.
But still, man, it's just amazing how early on, because you just don't have enough evidence that this is good and it's working and it's
Right. That's not
valuable.
true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
could be
I
true.
have I have a funny story about fan mail back in the dark ages when people used to write letters.
Yeah.
Um, the very first piece of hate mail, hate mail I received, which I ended up receiving a lot because the character I was on a soap, and the character I played on the soap was not especially like it was never supposed to be somebody that people liked, but it wasn't a villain either. So I didn't get the benefit of getting to have fun. I was just a shitty character. So people did not like her. And the very first hate letter, because I had gotten a couple of letters of like crazies who were I hadn't even aired yet, and they're just like, "You're the best," and they don't know who I am. And so I'm like, "Oh, this is okay." And yeah, all right.
Indeed, I
And then
am.
I thought so too. And then I get the bad letter, and it's so funny what you do. And I don't know what the biological reason behind this is, but just why we latch on so
Yeah.
strongly to negative feedback. I immediately ripped it up into tiny pieces and threw it in the trash. Like it was just instinct. I just didn't think about it and I did it. And later on, I was telling a friend of mine who had worked on soaps before, I told her what had happened, and she said, "Oh, yeah, you're supposed to keep fan letters in case somebody kills you so that they have evidence." So to this day,
Right.
my husband and I have, his is way bigger. A giant, two giant boxes
Right.
of fan mail I was only on the show for 2 years. He was on for 3 and people liked him a lot more. But we were cleaning out our stuff last time we moved, and he said, "Do we really, I mean, isn't the statute of limitations up on this?" And I don't remember I'm pretty sure I kept mine because nobody's going to kill me.
Right. You'll get found out. Let's be clear about that.
That's right.
You know, I have a friend of mine, and she recently did a big keynote thing. It was one of her first ones. And you know, I didn't want to be like the party pooper, but and she had great feedback, and I said, "Hey, listen, remember this, because this is what helped me. As personal as you take all those comments, and as personal like you own, like that's who you are, and that's you. That's exactly how you're going to take the negative ones that will come." So
Yeah.
for me, like I have to keep in mind, it's not about me, man. Like I'm not that. It's whatever is in them on that day. For whatever
Right.
reason, I happen to flip the switch, and they were able to tap into who they really are. In that had nothing to do with me. It's all what's really
Yeah.
inside of that person, and it changed everything for me.
Yeah. It's good that you can apply that.
Yeah, and I'll tell you the other thing that really helped was I saw this Seinfeld documentary.
Mm-hmm.
And he was coming back to do stand up after his show was stopped, and his agent was asking. He's in the limo leaving the club. He was doing like reading jokes off of napkins. He'd go out every night and do like an open mic to see how these things would go over. And the agent asked him how it went that night, and he goes, "Man, I don't know. Like I have to do those jokes again. That crowd was terrible." I thought, wait a minute. So it's not all up to me?
Oh yeah, it's the crowd was terrible. That's so funny. Yeah.
Wait a minute. I thought it was 100% my responsibility for everyone's experience. Hold on.
Yeah.
Are you telling me that
But
they
you
should
have to
take
be
some?
so evolved to be able
Oh
to.
my God. I was not even close to that.
No.
Nah. Hey, when I think back about the beginning of people's career, I love looking at that very beginning of the trajectory because like where
Mhm.
you are right now, like you can kind of trace that back even to like your freshman year. And can you remember anything with Evelyn that moments that were shared in the classroom or in the hallway at some moment in school that you still remember like, wow, that really made a difference in my life?
I mean, there's so many. There's way too many to even pinpoint. I to this day, I think that she is probably one of the better directors I've ever worked with, and I've worked with David Mamet. I mean, I've worked
Mm.
with some pretty incredible directors, and the fact that she, I remember one we were doing. I think this was my freshman year. We were doing a play called The Runner Stumbles, and it's a very saucy play about a priest and a nun who fall in love. And
In my hands. Yeesh.
and I wonder why everybody hated us. I mean, I don't. She did not back down from controversial material, and I'm sure that that's part of what the conflict was. But
Yeah.
I also believe that because of that, I have the taste that I have today, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. But we were doing The Runner Stumbles, and she it was lunchtime. She was like, let's go get some lunch. I'll sit with you at lunch. And we went through, it wasn't every scene because we didn't have time, but we went through several scenes. We went through every single line. And she just asked me, she was like, okay, well, what if you were in this position? How would you feel about this? What would you think about this? And just the kind of in-depth process that took, at the time that it took, the energy it took, the sort of focus that she had to have to basically teach me how, from like nothing, how to act. She is the person who taught me how to act. And that was, it was monumental because I still use that foundation today.
Yeah.
Everything that I was taught in high school is what I mean, I went to theater school. They were teaching me how to breathe. I know how to breathe. So it was not fundamental stuff that I was getting from that. I mean, I have nothing but good things to say. I give speeches at their graduation. I love my alma mater, but they were teaching me how to breathe.
And you seem like a
So
natural breather to me.
I'm not. I mean, that's probably why I didn't like doing it so much. But that was just one of like a million examples. I do remember we were shooting a student film. This was when I first, like, in the teeny tiniest first weeks, like the incubation of me thinking that maybe this is something I wanted to do. We were shooting a film that the drama class had written, and I had been cast as the lead because I could cry on cue. And that's when I was like, oh, I can do. I'm good at something. And I remember it was after hours, and we just shot a scene, and we did like a lot of takes, and it just, the energy of it was so incredible and so fun. And we took a 5, and I remember I went to the ladies' room, and as I was walking to the ladies' room, I remember this so clearly in my head, and maybe out loud. I said, I think this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Yeah. And then
So
at
there you
that
go.
point, how old were you?
14.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. And so again, I don't know. I think about sometimes what I would have done, what I would have been in high school, what I would have done in high school without her. Just the trouble I would have gotten into. And I mean, I'm a fairly focused person, so I'm assuming I would have found something. I probably would have read books because I didn't read any books, and I just read plays. I read plays. I mean, I would read like 10 plays a day. I was just so engrossed in the drama and the characters. Couldn't read a book to save my life. It was
Yeah.
not. I couldn't get into it. But I don't know what I would have done without her.
You know, I think that's true. You know, when when parents would come to open house when I was teaching high school, and they, and they're just looking for something for their incoming freshmen. And I think, look, man, get them involved. Like, get them a family in this school. Get them connected. It doesn't matter if it's the chess club, wrestling team, Spanish,
Yeah.
theater, choir. Get them into something where they can feel
Something.
a part of something bigger than themselves. Because if not, like they're gonna form their own little group. They're gonna be in a group. Hopefully, it's a teacher sponsored, like UIL
Right.
sanction.
Right. Yeah.
But they're gonna
Yeah.
get in a group, and especially a kid like you. Like, if you didn't have theater, if you can cry on cue, you'd be the kid they'd bring to every party. Hey, bring Natalie just in case we get caught, because she can cry on cue. And that way we'll get out of
Right.
trouble.
Or like, she can go get beer, and if they ask for her ID, and
Right.
she can pretend like she lost it and she can cry or something, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember having, because, we, for the speech and theater or speech and debate tournaments, I didn't do debate. I stuck to the speech stuff. We would rehearse for hours and hours and hours after school. I mean, until like late night. And I think about that sometimes, about like, what would that time have been spent doing? Homework, maybe? I don't know. I mean, I doubt it, because what I was doing was so much fun and so fulfilling, and so like it was such hard work too. And I loved the way that felt. I loved feeling like I was working really hard, but I was also being creative. But I was also being treated like an adult. And I don't think homework would have done that for me. I don't know what would have. And I shudder to think.
Yeah, and there's also something powerful about a group of kids and a teacher coming together for a moment where, like, if that's marching contest for band, or that's the
Right.
game, a playoff game, or to have something where this whole thing culminates and there's experience, all the shared experience, especially in theater, where it's just this overwhelming wave of emotion that all these kids collectively share, and that
Yeah.
moment of sitting around in the circle afterwards, processing the last 6 weeks, all those rehearsals, and and you close the show, man, like at a young age. Just, man, what an amazing experience.
It's intense. It was really intense. I mean, she would, when we would go to speech tournaments, I would, we got to the point where I was, not to, but I was so successful that people, there were sign-in sheets because I don't know if you know how speech tournaments work, but you do different rounds. So you do round 1, round 2, round 3, and then whoever gets the highest score from those rounds, they go on to semis and then finals, and then you win. And in those rooms, you're competing with 5 other scenes, whether that be a duet scene or a monologue. It's you and 5 other people. So you have to rank. And it got to the point where people would look, before they would look and see what room they were in, they would look and see what room I was in.
Yeah.
And that's just what happened. That's not me toot my own horn. That's what happened. And that's a real weird thing too, when you're like, I feel like I should be flattered, but also that's a lot of pressure. So Evelyn she was so like in it with us. She would take us aside before every single round. And she had other students. So she was, I don't even know how she was in 2 places at once. She would come to us, and the speeches she would give us before, and I started to think, you need to save the speech for the finals, because don't like you can like tone it down a little.
Pace
we're
yourself
gonna be
there, Evie.
We're gonna get there.
Right.
But she just gave it. When I have to do 4 takes of a scene, I'm like, guys,
Right.
I'm spent. But she just never phoned it in, and that was like, it spoiled me, because directors don't really direct actors anymore. It's just there's too much. There's not enough time. There's too much else going on, and we're kind of on our own. And I really miss having somebody to, do some of the work for me, but also be as invested as she was. She was so invested in the outcome, and it was so evident to us.
Well, I think in any kind of art, just having, feedback, there's a saying that we always use in my business, and that is, it's really difficult, or it's impossible. You can't read the label from inside the bottle. And like, as an actress, when you're in it and you're in the emotion and your feet, but it's really obvious where there can be some improvement, or just an idea from somebody outside of it, rather than, being stuck in it by yourself in that emotion.
Yeah, No, I know I mean, with a lot of things, but especially this, it's, you know, you
Yeah,
can, navel gazing becomes really easy if you're not careful.
for sure. And so you had a lot, I mean, not to toot your horn, but you had a lot of success going through high school, and you have some great roles, and you know you're winning at stuff. But at some point, was it after high school when you realized, oh my gosh, like some
I had a really hard time. It's funny. I'm reading a book right now by the actress.
finally reading a book?
I'm really trying. I am. I'm getting into reading again, for the first time in my life.
Right.
Um, I'm reading a book by this actress named Busy Phillips, and she's a peer. She's kind of in my peer group. She's in my age group. We compete with the same projects. And I'm only halfway through the book, but she's talking about her career trajectory. And I'm like, girl, you had it real easy in the beginning. And I know that she's going to go through, I know it's going to go up and down, but as I'm listening to it, I'm like, oh, I hope people understand that it doesn't always just happen immediately. I think that there is a misconception even now after all these years and of people, you know, knowing what's behind the scenes. I think there's a misconception that if you don't find success fairly soon after you start going, that you're probably not going to, and that you're not talented, and that you're not good enough, and that you can't hack it. And the reality is that I worked for years at trying to get work and wasn't getting it. And I just knew that it wasn't me. I knew I wasn't supposed to stop. But also I didn't know how much longer I could do this without getting anything that told me, yes, you're supposed to be doing this. So it was a really rough road after high school. I went to a performing arts or a theater arts school, college. Not college. I don't even know what they call it. It's a conservatory. And I spent 2 years there breathing. And again, I don't know that I got a lot of practical knowledge about acting from the school. It was a good way to segue from Texas to New York. It was sort of this cushion where I had people around me that I trusted and somewhere to go every day, as opposed to just like, okay, here I am in New York, and what's a headshot?
Right.
So after I graduated from AMDA, from the conservatory, it was really hard. It was really, really hard for years, not for months, for years. And I mean, it's hard to say, keep trying to some people, because some people shouldn't, but I just knew that I should. I knew that I was talented enough. I could see from the outside enough to be like, it's not because I don't have it. I do have it. It's something else. So I need to just keep going.
Yeah. And I think those are, it's just that concept of this overnight success in just about every world. But like, yeah, it's overnight. If you're counting the last 12 years of my life overnight, I just saw a podcast with, what's his name? The Eric Stone Street. Is that him from Modern Family? Mm-hmm. And he was talking about when he got that gig, he had been doing like commercials, was his work for a decade.
Yeah.
A decade until 10 years he's wanting to be an actor. I'm not saying that commercials aren't acting, but the style of what he wanted to act in, he just for 10 years. And I thought to myself, who in their profession can do that and not get a job for 10 years?
Yeah, I something that I give occasional speeches, the commencement speeches at my alma mater. And one of the things that I like to impress upon these people is that, it's easy to start seeing other actors as competition and to have disdain towards them, and to, because it's basically self-loathing. Like, well, why would you do this for a living? Why would I do this for a living? Yeah. But you need to look at it from this point of view. And that is, the nobility of going to a place on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis where you are told no 99% of the time and the next day you go again is unspeakable. It is an incredibly noble job to be rejected over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, and to just wake up the next day and say, I'm going to do it again. It's like, I can't think of anything more incredible really than like people who are also, you're a sensitive artist. It's not like you're this tough construction worker who can kind of take it because it's not personal. They're saying no to you, your soul.
Right.
They're saying your soul isn't good enough, but come back tomorrow and I'll tell you no again.
Yeah. That's what, that's what he talked about. He said it was to the point where he would see the same people in all these auditions, of course. Yeah. And he would be so confident. Okay, this is it. And then like 6 months later, he sees that some other guy that was in that room on TV. He's like, "You got to be kidding me! That guy?"
Got it. Yeah, it's the joke is it's between me and the girl who got it.
Yeah, right.
Always. Me and the girl who got it.
Yeah, that's it. And so even in my daughter's world right now, graduating from the high school for performing arts, and she's going to go to school and do the whole acting thing. I am shocked. I can't even get my head around just in terms of her high school career and these auditions, how many times they say, nah, no thanks.
Yeah.
It's like, how do these kids, but maybe that's great training. I don't know.
I think it is. I think it is because here's something that here's the good news. You can develop a callus, and I've definitely developed it, where you just learn. I mean, because I don't think you can do anything that many times and not figure out a survival strategy. Otherwise, I mean, you would have to quit.
Yeah.
It's something that you absolutely are able to train for, like a marathon. You do something enough times, you figure out ways to protect yourself from it.
Yeah. For you at this point in your career, or maybe I'm just wondering at what point in your career did it, like for me and what I do, I learned a few years ago, well, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, I don't really get excited about any event until I'm on the stage doing it. Cause so many have fallen through, you know what I mean? Like I'm wondering, cause like I'm sure like in the first few years of your career and you, oh my God, I killed it in there. It's going to happen. They told me they love me. I told them I love them. And then it just didn't happen. At some point, did you just not get, hyped up for the possibility and just like, if it happens, it happens?
No, you always get hyped up. I mean, I don't anymore, but for different reasons. Just because I'm a realist. But yeah, I mean, I think about the first few really big breaks I got. I was beside myself when I got the news that I got those jobs, because I was, I had like held out hope and got really excited about the prospect. And I'm glad, again, now it's different because it just means it means different things now than it used to. But yeah, there's nothing better than that feeling of, I mean, it's like, you can't even describe it, especially when you've been struggling.
Yeah.
When you get that break.
For you, was you're the big one? What was it? Passions?
I mean, it depends because for me, I have had so many ups and downs in between. I've had so many lulls in between my break. Like there's been several big breaks that, then end up, putting me back in a place that I'm like, oh, I'm here again. Passions was great for me in the sense that it was my first regular gig. It was the first thing that I got as an actor where I had a multi-year contract. I knew I was going to make good money. I thought I was going to make better money than I did because there was a weird clause in there. But the main reason I took the job was because I knew that it wasn't going to be very challenging for me. The material was not good, and I knew that I would struggle with it. And it's not a secret. It's not like I'm telling tales out of school.
I was wondering, man, like if at some point when you're reading scripts, are you looking around the room going, "Are you people serious about that?"
It's up here.
Right.
It's right. It's right here. It's right here. It's the scene where I was like, "Oh, I'm done."
Right.
It's a great scene. It's so bad.
Was there a ghost in it?
No, it was when I give myself I think I give myself a hickey or like I give myself a hickey and I walk in and I'm like, your husband, it's just, I'm like, guys, I'm out. I gotta go. I can't do this anymore. It's in there though. It's up. It's the first one that got framed. So I knew that the material wasn't good. I knew that I wasn't taking the job for the creative experience of it. And I just wanted to know what it felt like to have a 2-year period of not worrying about where money was going to come from. Yeah. So I was like, okay, I'm going to see what it feels like to have a steady paycheck. I've never had a steady paycheck. And so that's why I did that. And that's what was big about that. That was a big break for me financially and just like getting me out here to LA.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? I forgot the other thing I wanted to ask. When you were in high school, when you were leaving school and everybody's graduating and everybody doing their thing, and kids are picking colleges, and some are going to trade school, and some are going to military, or go and work on the ranch or whatever. When you were announcing, I'm going to New York, what was that like? What was that about?
I think people expected it. I think that there were a couple people who were very condescending. There was this girl. I know her name. I'm not going to say it. There was this girl who was beautiful, and she was like model beautiful. She was tall, and there had been talk of her doing some modeling somewhere. I don't think in New York. But I just remember her, and she was a couple of years younger. She was a year younger, and I just heard just this very sort of condescending, like, "Oh, you're gonna go to New York," and I want to be like, "Bro, come on, man. What? Like, why?"
Yeah.
But so there were a few who were like, "Oh, okay." But I think a lot of people just expected, I don't think it was a big surprise. This kind of had been the plan.
Right.
I did think about SMU. I thought about, I applied to DePaul in Chicago, and there was a weird period where I idolized one of these girls, who was a senior when I was a freshman. And so for like a minute, I wanted to do everything she did, which was stay very local. That was a phase. To which Evelyn and my parents were like, "Really?" And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, no, never mind." But I don't think a lot of. I mean, there may have been the naysayers who were like, "Well, I didn't think she'd actually do it. I knew she was talking about it, but I didn't think she would do it." And I'm sure that there was a contingent of people, now that we're talking about it, who thought that I would come home. I guess I don't. I mean, that was not an option for me, but I guess that could have been, on people's minds.
It's interesting, so when you were in high school, that was pretty much your identity. Like, you were the theater kid, you're the acting kid.
Yeah. It was very much my identity. Although, I tended to, I still, I went to parties and I was good, but I would dabble. I was not, I made sure that I towed a really, like, I towed the line of being, not being, I don't even know what the term, I'm going to sound like I'm from the 50s. Like, I got 2 shoes. What is the straight? I don't know. But also I was, I had a lot to lose. So I just spent a lot of time working on, my craft.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what that whole passion is. And for me, like, when I work with teachers, that's the main thing is, like, I mean, I want the kid, let's put some knowledge into the kid's noggin for sure. Let's deliver some content, but more than that, I'm all about, let's empower that kid to identify whatever their passion is. I don't even care.
What is your thing? Yeah.
And like, in today's world, there's a way to make money at that. Whatever your thing is, there's
whatever it is, it's great. Yeah, you like, yes, go do it. I can help you with that. Yeah, that's all it is. I mean, and it's not simple, but once you know that's sort of where you start. I think that, again, I go back to, what would I have been doing? I just don't know what I would have been doing. I don't know, like, would I have been learning French? I don't know. I can't imagine it would have been good.
No, it's never good.
No, it's never good.
Yeah. For you, like, looking back, because you've had this, like, crazy, like you said, there's ups, there's downs, there's lulls, there's, all right, I'll take it because it's going to pay the bills, and other things, it's more of a passion project. But for you, like, what has been the work that you're most proud of? Like, if you were going to show Evelyn, like, one thing.
I would say, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is the show that I'm on right now. the
People love that.
Detour.
Dude, people love that show.
Um, yeah, I love it too.
That's like a
I
real show with like fans. Like that's a fan show, you know?
People, yeah, I love not that I don't love fans of every show I'm on. I mean, of course, if you're a fan of the show, then I'm a fan of you.
Right.
But there's something, it's so funny how different shows have different personalities of fans. And I really, 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 it's because I think it's because this is a show that I think I would watch if I wasn't on it. And I haven't historically done a lot of those shows. And it feels different. But I also, I've had the freedom to be a comedian on this show in ways that I've never been given the freedom to do that. I've always been considered a dramatic actress, which is, what it is, even though you don't go to drama school and study. They don't say, okay, what's your major, comedy or drama? That's not a thing. So, you get really pigeonholed. So I think the Detour, I did a movie 4 or 5 years ago called Too Late. And it's not a movie that a lot of people saw. It was starring John Hawkes. And it's a movie in 5 acts. And every act is one single take, which is a thing. It's the thing that people are doing now. Mm-hmm. But it came out before Birdman. We shot it before Birdman. Birdman kind of made it sort of in vogue. And I am in one of the acts, and I was cast the night before we shot. And it was, I told a friend of mine was producing, and she called and she was like, look, our actors dropped out. Is there any way you would want to do this? And I read the material. I said, I can't pull this off. And she said, I think you can. She was just desperate. She just needed an actor. I said, I really, because at first I knew that they needed a name for this role. And I was like, look, I'm not a big enough name for you. And she's like, you'll do. We just,
close enough.
You're fine. And also I wasn't the right age because I have a teenage daughter. She's like, look, we're desperate. And I know you can pull this off as an actress. So I thought, she said, let us know tomorrow morning. And let us know while you're on your way to set. And so I thought about it. And I was like, these are the things that you have to say no to the things that scare you as an artist. And I would be remiss to say no to a project just because I didn't think I could pull it off. I mean, that's the dumbest reason to say no to something. So I did it. And, everybody else had 2 days of rehearsal and 1 day of shooting, because when you shoot something that's all one take, it's very, very, very complicated. And it's 20 minutes of one take. And you have to do about 10 of them, because one of them technically is going to be not so great. One of them acting wise is going to be not so great. One of them, the lighting is going to be like, you have to try and get one where everybody is working at their absolute best. And that takes about, 8 to 10 takes. And that takes all day. You have to reset, reset, and that takes an hour. So most people had 2 days of rehearsal with a camera and everything, and then 1 day of shooting. And our day, the first day got ruined because the actress quit and they had to find another actress. Second day, there was a huge camera mishap, and we did not get a rehearsal at all. So, but I at least had that day to learn my lines. So the third day the first take that we shot was the first time I ever did the scene, which is bananas when you're doing a one take scene.
Right.
So we did it 7 or 8 times, I think, or maybe 8 or 9. And I think they took take 6 or 7. I'm very, very, very proud of my work in that scene, because if you were to watch it, and the problem is that just somebody who doesn't know anything about movie making, if you were to watch it, it's like, okay, that's a scene. But if you know what went into the making of this film, it's sort of mind blowing. And I'm very proud of it from that point of view. But again, the lay person, I don't think would watch it and go, oh, well, that's impressive. They would just say, that looks like a scene, which is exactly what we wanted.
With the, you have these things that you're proud of, and you have these pieces, and now you get these crazy fans with Detour. And in those moments of the lull, what I'm interested in is, what do you think it is about, your mental state where you were able to keep going? Because I know you had doubts and you had thoughts, I'm giving it up, I can't do it. But then you woke up and you went to another audition and you're tending bar and people are rude and and you're trying to figure out how to pay rent for your little rat hole you're living in New York and
Yeah.
and you don't get the gig and you go back to the bar and what is it? Like why are some people able to keep driving forward and not giving up?
I can only tell you what it was for me, and it's not very inspirational. And that is that I tried to figure out what I would do, and there wasn't anything. It's not like I'm so passionate about this, I couldn't imagine doing it. It was clearly that there is nothing else that I'm good at, and by the time I had to ask myself that question, I felt like, and I was probably still in my 20s at this point, but I felt like it was too late to have to, go down a road of like completely starting over at something that I just knew I didn't want to do and probably wasn't going to be good at. At one point I was very, very close to quitting, and I made an appointment at, I think some college in Long Beach, with, I don't even remember, the details are fuzzy. Something about, I don't know if it was like an intro class or if it was a meeting or auditing or something having to do with fashion or design or something. So I was like, I can make clothes. I don't know.
Art can that be?
Yeah. And this was before the GPS. This is when we still had the Thomas Guide. And on my way down there, I got very lost. And I remember I pulled into a gas station and called, and I was like, I'm super, super lost. And I feel like it's too late anyway. I'm late now and it's too late. And they were like, oh no, I mean, you can still come. And I could tell that I was just like desperate to use this as a sign for like not going through with this, because I mean, every fiber in my being was like, you don't want to do this. And so I turned around and went back to LA, and I was like, okay, cool.
Right.
All right. So not quitting, can't. So I guess I'll just eat a bunch of crow until something has to happen.
I think in order to quit, you need some map skills, and clearly
I think you need skills, of anything.
Yeah.
Can you do anything? And that's the thing. Like, can you do anything? I cannot do anything. I can do nothing outside of this.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, for you in your professional life and your personal life, let's do both. Tell me about, first do professional. Tell me the one thing. And I know it's hard to pick one. I'm not asking you to pick the best thing, but just one of the many things that you're super excited about right now professionally.
Right now?
Yeah.
Oh God.
Something cooking. Something
well, I don't know. I'm going to be very, very frank, because I know it's a bunch of teachers and not a lot of industry people watching this. So I don't know about the future of my show. Where we've finished filming the 4th season, which is about to air. And right now, anything could happen. We could either get picked up or we could not. And this is the first time where I have felt that kind of uncertainty. In the past, we've always sort of known that it's going to go. So it's been a good 4 years of having, as much job security as one can have in this industry, and being very sort of comfortable and knowing what my year is going to look like. And everything is very unknown. And that is, it's both a familiar feeling from before, and it's also kind of foreign because my life has changed a lot in these 4 years. So I guess I'm sort of terrified but excited about what is going to happen next, because if it does get picked up, then great. Then, we'll go to wherever we go, because we travel, and I'll make a bunch of money and it'll be great. and I'll get to act fun. So I guess I'm excited about, what I'm weirdly excited about not knowing what the next whatever looks like.
Yeah.
I mean, as you get older, that's so much harder. Like, 10 years ago, it would have been like, yeah, this is just life. This is what we do. Now there's a kid in the mix. Now there's 2 mortgages in the mix. Like all these people who depend on me. And it's scary, but It doesn't have to be.
Yeah, I think people really underestimate that in terms like those of us that have a different style of career or some people that have jobs and I like this happened recently. I can't remember the show, but I was thinking, oh, I love that guy. I love that guy. What was the last? I can't remember what I saw him on, and I went to look him up to remember to figure out what the last show I saw him on was, and this was the first show he's had since 2012.
Yeah, because you wait. I mean, if you can,
Yeah.
you wait, and that's what scares me because I don't, I have bills to pay.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right, there you go, man. It's professional. How about personal? What are you fired up for? What do you got going on? Something new? Something other than reading?
Um, Here's what, this is going to be a little cheesy, but my family, we do a lot of traveling for work, and we do a lot of sort of obligatory traveling for family.
Mm-hmm.
We do not go on vacations, just the three of us to enjoy each other's company. And so what I told my husband was, all right, here's what we're going to do. If the show gets picked up, we're going to Hawaii, the three of us. We're having a proper family vacation. If it doesn't, we're going to Palm Springs,
Right.
the three of us. But whatever happens, as soon as we get news, I want us to all, the three of us get out of Dodge, forget about what's going on, regroup as a family, connect as a family, and then we can start whatever adventure is after that. And I'm really excited about, getting to do that with them, because we travel so much, but it's not, I hate it. It's It's a grind. It's just, it's not like I can't wait to get on the airplane because we're going on this great vacation. It's, we got to do X, Y, and Z. So, and you forget when especially when you're traveling as much as we do, you forget to be like, oh, hey, how about a vacation? Because it feels like you're always on vacation, but it's not the fun kind.
No, there's a schedule involved.
Yeah. So that's personally, I mean, I wish I could say it was something sort of more saucy and Hollywood, but it's family.
Yeah. Hey, man, here's what I want you to do. I'm going to give you some homework. So here's, first of all, you got to reconnect with Evelyn. I know.
You know what?
I want you to initiate it, though. You initiate it.
I know. She sent me a text a week ago or so, and she was like, "I'd love to hear from you." And I'm like, "I know. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna reconnect. I'm writing it down now. There you go."
There you go. And then also here's one more. I want you to tell me real quick. Tell me a teacher that you know is still alive, and someone who comes to mind, and someone that you still think about that has made a difference in your life outside of Evelyn. Who was that for you?
Oh, the whole "do I know if they're still alive" thing is a real catch.
Well, you could assume they're still alive just based on age.
I actually don't know if she's still alive, but my oh, you know who I loved? Mrs. Ratcliffe, who was I didn't take a lot of honors classes in high school, but I did take honors history, and she was great. She was one of those people who was like, yeah, go to New York, do it. You're going to be great. She just seemed very, she didn't seem small town.
Yeah.
And not that that's an insult. There's something great about being small town, but she seemed like she sort of was very savvy, outside of the confines of our little town.
Yeah.
Mrs. Ratcliffe. Yeah.
All right.
I think that was her name. Oh God, I think that was
All right, put her on the list, or whoever she might be. Put her on the list. And so there you got two. You have Evelyn, and I really, really want you to pick one more, whether it's Ratcliffe, if that person even exists, or someone else. Yeah. And reach out and just send them 3 sentences about the difference it made in your life. You promise?
Yeah, I promise. I will do that. Absolutely.
All right. Hey, listen. Yeah. I can't thank you enough. I so appreciate you taking the time to hang with me and chit chat.
I mean, I'll talk about myself anytime anybody asks me.
And what's important for teachers, here's the thing, like we, when there's somebody out there that like, I know sometimes it gets connected to success, but it's not really what it's about for teachers. When they find out there's somebody's out there who's actually making a living at doing what they love and making a positive difference in the lives of others. Yeah, man, it's like emotional fuel for educators for them to keep going. And the fact that you spent a few minutes with us is just awesome. Thank you so much.
Of course. Yeah.
All right, cool. Hey, I think the last time we saw each other, was either we were having crawfish. Was that one place on 6th Street?
Oh yeah. Was it
Uh-huh.
crawfish?
Something.
Something. It was something
Something messy.
Louisiana-ish.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So that was only a couple of decades ago. So
I
so at
was a
some
child.
point in the next couple of decades, we're gonna hook it back up and hang out with our fams. Cool.
I'd love that. I would really like that.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. My best to your family.
My best to yours. Good. And I'm sure you're gonna be in Hawaii and not Palm Springs. Wishful thinking.
I might go to Hawaii anyway. I don't know.
There you go. All right. Thank you.
All right. Bye.